Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by the Little Shaman, that's me. Today I want to talk to you about why no contact is the recommended way to deal with a narcissist. You've probably heard that said many times. First of all, let's talk about what no contact means. No contact means exactly what it says. No contact. You don't talk to this person, you don't see them, you don't deal with them at all. If they call, you don't answer. If they knock on the door, you ignore them. In this way, you work to break the enmeshment pattern and the trauma bond that you were stuck in so that you can be freed from the relationship and the abuse that goes with it. If this is a relationship that's romantic in nature and you have children with this person, no contact can be trickier, but there are often court liaisons or perhaps a friend is willing to be an intermediary between you two. The reason, though, that everyone recommends going no contact is because this is the only way to break the spell, so to speak. Narcissists create an atmosphere of drama and high emotionality, both good and bad. They are manipulative and abusive, bombarding the person with all manner of abusive and controlling tactics, such as gaslighting, love bombing, and everything in between, designed to maintain control over the person so that the narcissist can get their needs met. That's all they care about. A reasonable, quote, normal person cannot think in that situation. Going no contact creates the distance that's needed in order to see things clearly. Once all of that stops and the narcissist's siren song has been cut off and silenced, it's much easier to have a realistic perspective regarding what's happening. You can't observe the destruction a tornado has caused if you're inside of it. All you can do is hold on. You can only survey the damage later once you're out and the tornado has passed. Trust me on that one. As I said before, going no contact also helps to break the trauma bonds and the enmeshment patterns that victims of narcissistic abuse are stuck in. If you're bonded with someone through trauma, your body and mind have basically become addicted to the situation. You couldn't quit smoking cigarettes if you kept doing it right. You can't say you're quitting as you're lighting up a cigarette. You quit by quitting. It's the same thing. You break the trauma bond by stopping the trauma, which usually involves ending the relationship and staying away from that person. I'm not going to pretend that that's easy or that it's painless, but neither is the relationship. At least after breaking the trauma bond, you have freedom to look forward to instead of more trauma and a never-ending roller coaster of emotions and drama. If it's going to hurt either way, why not pick the one that at least has a good outcome in the long run? No contact gives you a chance to evaluate and reestablish your boundaries and work on separating yourself emotionally from the narcissist. You have spent so much time worrying about this person and carrying their emotional burdens that you might not even know what your needs are anymore or understand your own feelings. No one can be happy or healthy in that situation, regardless of why they are doing it. You were not put here just to be a slave to someone else's needs. It's time to let other people carry their own weight so that you can carry yours. No contact works to starve a narcissist's need for attention from you as well. They are addicted to the drama too, don't forget. They endlessly crave attention and support and admiration and anything else they can get. Even negative attention works fine for them, which is why they will provoke arguments and drag it on for hours. But nothing's ever enough, so they're chronically empty and miserable. You could never give them enough attention or love or affection or anything else to make things okay. This is hard for a lot of people to accept, so if you want to prove it to yourself, look at the situation that you're in. You have basically given up your entire life to make this person happy. You've given them absolutely everything. You've bent over backwards. You've made them the center of the universe. Did it work? Are they happy? No, right? They always need more and more and more. They laugh at what you've given them, or they deny it altogether. They spit on everything you've done and say it didn't matter, or that it wasn't good enough, or that you didn't mean it, or that it didn't happen, or whatever else. They delight in frustrating, upsetting, and manipulating people. What makes you think this is ever going to change? Especially since it never has. This is why no contact is recommended. Because if you stay in any type of relationship with a narcissist, that's all it's ever going to be. It's abusive, and even if you were willing to put up with abuse, are you willing to put up with pointless abuse? Abuse just for the sake of abuse? Because that's what it is. It's not leading to anything. You're not going to be rewarded for your patience and your suffering. It isn't going to end with the narcissist someday waking up to reality and the abuse was all worth it because now it's wonderful all the time. Even if the narcissist doesn't discard you, the best you can likely hope for is someone who eventually just ignores you instead of attacking you. It's not worth it. They have no capacity for or understanding of happiness. They don't have any capacity for or understanding of love. They don't understand or care about other people's feelings or needs, and there is nothing you can do or say to fix that. They are just not built that way. All you can do is get out of the situation before you lose your capacity for happiness too. A lot of people want to find a way around this, but there isn't one. There's no magic pill that will make them not abusive and not disordered anymore. It is what it is. There are people who have been in relationships with narcissists for 30 years, and it's still the same as it ever was. I receive messages and comments and things from people who are talking about their 90-year-old grandmother is a narcissist, still throwing tantrums and abusing people. It doesn't end. No contact allows you to put an end to the situation before any more damage to yourself is done. The relationship, and that's any kind of relationship, romantic, family, anything, with a narcissist is a lost cause because they don't even have the capacity to understand what the problem is. You are pouring your love and energy down a black hole, and you deserve more than that. Everybody does. I hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by Little Shaman Healing. That's me, the Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you and have a wonderful day. Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, the Little Shaman. Today I want to talk to you about managing no contact with narcissistic people. This is something I get asked about all the time, so I thought I'd talk about it on the show today. Making the decision to walk away from the relationship with a narcissistic person can be very difficult. It doesn't matter what the relationship is, if it's your mom, your dad, your child, your friend, your husband, your wife, they're all hard. Because of enmeshment and trauma bonding, separating themselves from the narcissistic person could be one of the hardest things some people ever do. It requires the painful acceptance of some really tough stuff in order to walk away, and staying away can prove even harder, especially when the narcissistic person is a family member. Part of the reason for this is because often when pathologically narcissistic people are facing the end of a relationship and it's not one they were ready to be done with, they will begin to panic. This can result in something that many people call hoovering. This behavior is named after the Hoover vacuum cleaner because that's what the narcissist is trying to do. They're trying to suck the person back into the relationship. They may suddenly be sorry. They may suddenly understand everything they've done wrong. They may suddenly become very kind. They may suddenly become hysterical and start talking about suicide. They might use guilt against the person who is attempting to leave. They may say that the person is abandoning them or rejecting them, that they're being treated unfairly, or that no one has ever cared about them. They may seem very sincere, and in fact, they could very well believe those things. Those things might even be true, but it doesn't matter because there's nothing you can do about it. You cannot help or heal someone by letting them abuse you, and that's all that's really possible in narcissistic relationships. Any kindness or consideration they show other people comes with a string attached. They know no other way to interact with people, and they have nothing to give. Another reason it's so hard to maintain no contact is because even though the relationship was generally unfulfilling, usually frustrating, and often abusive, the person still wants to see the narcissist. They still want to be around the narcissist. They're holding on to hope. They're looking for closure. They're not sure whether the relationship is salvageable or not. There are any number of reasons that people will use to convince themselves that seeing the narcissist or talking to the narcissist one more time is justified or even necessary. In order to manage no contact, it's essential to remember that this relationship is feeding an addiction that you have, and these reasons are lies the addicted part of your brain is telling you. It just wants its fix of drama and love bombing, and you cannot break an addiction if you are continuing to use. It's hard, it's painful, it sucks, quite frankly, but if you really want to break this addiction, you have to face it down and beat it. The only way to do that is to stop. It's also really important to examine your motivations here. Are you ending the relationship because you are truly done with being disrespected, abused, and mistreated? Or are you trying to teach the pathologically narcissistic person a lesson in the hope that they'll change their behavior? Because they will, for a while, for as long as it takes to convince you to come back and to stay. Then it will likely go back to how it was because this is all they know. Manipulation, domination, and control. So many people say that they're trying to help the narcissist function normally and don't realize that they are functioning normally. This is their normal. They've never been any other way. If someone suddenly loses their ability to see, their new situation, their new way of functioning will feel abnormal because they were used to a different way of functioning for so long. They'll feel like they've lost something. But for someone who's been blind since birth, there's nothing abnormal about the situation at all. This is how it's always been, and they have nothing else to compare it to. It's not possible for someone to understand the loss of something they've never had. If you're having trouble with no contact or with walking away from the relationship, just remember that it's going to take time. You have to get used to someone not being around and your whole life being different. You have to mourn the relationship, and you have to get used to not being responsible for this person anymore. These things are difficult in and of themselves, and you're dealing with an addiction on top of that. Habits are hard to change. Patterns are hard to break. There is a chemical or physical component to this addiction, an emotional component, and a habitual one, a behavioral one. It's hard to change all these things at once. It's painful, and it takes time to do. For example, when you decide to quit smoking, it's not a decision you make only one time. It's an ongoing choice that you have to keep making over and over again. A person who decides to quit smoking on Tuesday doesn't wake up on Wednesday not wanting to smoke anymore. They have to keep making that same decision 50 times a day or more until the physical urge goes away, the emotional triggers become less intense, and the habit is broken. It's the exact same thing here. There's no way to skip the work. There's no way to avoid the struggle. But once you face it down and you beat it, then you've beaten it. It takes willpower, commitment, and time. Sometimes people beat themselves up for still having feelings for the pathologically narcissistic person or for still wanting to be around them. Don't. You're a human being with feelings, dealing with someone and something that is extremely difficult. Accept the situation for what it is and do the best you can. Don't beat yourself up, but don't give yourself too many excuses either. Remember that in narcissistic relationships, closure is a myth. It can also be a trap, because repeatedly engaging with this person in an attempt to find closure is only putting yourself back on that hamster wheel, running and running and running, but never getting anywhere. You have to find your own closure by making it okay with yourself that you're probably never going to get what you want from this person. It's just not going to happen. The relationship with a narcissistic person is a never-ending cycle where you chase what you want, but you don't ever get it. It's like a mule with a carrot. Mules are strong, but they're stubborn. So if you want the mule to pull the plow, you have to show him a carrot. When you dangle the carrot over the mule's head, he works harder trying to get that carrot for a while. Mules are stubborn, but they're not stupid. Eventually, he'll figure out he's never going to get the carrot, and then when he's tired and when he's had enough, he's just going to sit down. Once that happens, no matter how hard you pull or what you offer, he's not going to get up because he's wise to the game now. He understands that you're working him now. So my question to you is, how tired are you? I hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. I take appointments Monday through Friday, online and over the phone, so if you'd like to speak with me one-on-one, you can visit littleshaman.org and click the Book an Appointment tab, or you can use the link that's available down there in the information section of this video. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you and have a wonderful day. Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast. That's me, the Little Shaman, and today I would like to speak with you about something that I actually get asked about all the time, and people bring it up all the time, and that is, what is the purpose of going no contact and the gray rock method? And the reason why I'm going to talk about this really quick is because I often have people tell me that going no contact or using the gray rock method didn't work because the narcissist is still bothering them or is still insulting them. Though I understand the frustration, this is the wrong way to look at that. You can't act in the hope of getting the narcissist to do or not do something. If you're looking at it like that, they still have control over your life. You have to tailor your actions in a way that benefits you. The purpose of going no contact or using the gray rock method is not to control the narcissist. It's to control yourself. It's to stop allowing the narcissist to influence and control your life. If you're only acting with the intent of creating a response from the narcissist, their control over your life has not stopped. You are still doing things with them and their reaction in mind. It's time to stop doing that. This is how you truly take the power back over your own life. It is often the biggest challenge in a person's life to learn how to control themselves and only themselves. All too often, we as human beings do things with the intent of controlling other people. This leads to frustration and chronic unhappiness because you cannot control other people. You can only control yourself. Too many times we do things designed to make people love us or notice us or leave us alone. This means our behavior is actually designed to control the feelings or the actions of others. This is not only unhealthy, but it's usually pretty unsuccessful. People may never love you, no matter how giving you are. They may never notice you, no matter how loud or flashy you are. They may never leave you alone, no matter how much you ignore them. The goal of your own behavior should always be your own peace. Then it doesn't matter how people react to it or what they think about it. When you learn how to control yourself and stop reacting and stop worrying about controlling other people, you take the power back. You can take the control back by doing that. The things that used to upset you so much in the past stop affecting you. This is the goal of the Gray Rock Method. This is the goal of going no contact. It's not to do something to the narcissist or create some type of reaction or feeling in them. It's to do something for yourself. As Captain Jack Sparrow famously said, the problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem. We can even make that more relevant here by changing it a little bit to say, the problem is not the narcissist, the problem is your reaction to the narcissist. Once you master that, a beautiful thing begins to happen. They are no longer capable of hurting you. This is the goal of both the no contact and the Gray Rock Method. Not changing their behavior or feelings, changing yours. I hope this clears a few things up for you. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast. That's me, the Little Shaman. As always, I look forward to your comments, stories, and suggestions. May the Great Spirit bless you and have a wonderful day. Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by the Little Shaman Healing. That's me, the Little Shaman. Today I want to talk to you about if you break the no contact rule with a narcissist. It happens. Nobody's perfect, and we are talking about a seriously powerful pattern to break out of here. Some people have been in this kind of situation their entire lives, with reinforced trauma bonding patterns that go back to childhood. So breaking away from that isn't easy to do at all. Many people slip up and fall back, so it's important to remember not to beat yourself up over it. Just reestablish your boundaries, put the no contact rule back in place, and try again. Breaking no contact doesn't mean all the work you've done on yourself has been ruined either. It means you're trying to break out of a pattern that you may have had your entire life. One that your body and mind are basically addicted to and dependent on. Making a mistake is not the end of the world. However, at the same time, you want to be careful not to cut yourself too much slack. The voice of addiction is very sneaky. It's very powerful. It can rationalize anything, and it is very, very persuasive. It's important to remember that even a little bit of poison is still poison. You don't get cancer from one cigarette. You don't get cancer from smoking one single cigarette after you've quit. You get cancer from continuing to smoke. It's the same principle here. One slip-up is not the end of everything, but a slip-up that turns into a pattern may be. A slip-up is a slip-up. It's not more than that, but it's certainly not less either. Take it for what it is and work on doing better next time, that's all. So how do you do that? Well, most of the time, people break the no contact rule when they're feeling vulnerable. This can be when you yourself are especially lonely or sad, or it can be when the narcissist has communicated that they are especially lonely or sad. This happens partly because of our own intrinsic humanity and partly because of the trauma bond and arousal jag dynamics that are part of the relationship with a narcissist or another abuser. People who have been traumatized and abused come to depend on the good feelings that come after abuse when the abuser is sorry and apologetic and everything feels good again. They are used to, and we could even say addicted to, the emotional and chemical lift that results from the abuse being stopped. So it's natural that when people in this situation feel vulnerable or bad, they're going to want to feel better the way they know how. Going no contact with an abuser is like going up on that emotional roller coaster into the bad feelings and never coming back down again into the good feelings. Try not to let it get to you. It's temporary. Your mind and body found ways to cope when you were being abused, and they will find ways to cope now that the abuse has stopped. You just have to let it work itself out. Be patient and hold on to your self-respect. That's more important than temporarily feeling better. People also break no contact because they feel guilty. They realize this is a disordered, miserable person, and they feel bad for them. There's nothing wrong with that. It's normal. But it's also dangerous. You can still feel pity for this person, but don't do it at your own expense. Part of self-care is not engaging in situations where you're being hurt, no matter what the reason is. It's entirely possible to pity a person while at the same time realizing there's nothing you can do to help them. This is how the narcissist should be approached. Yes, they are a victim. Yes, it's a terrible shame. No, there's nothing you or anyone else can do. It's extremely important to remember this because it's nothing but the truth. Regardless of how you feel, regardless of what they say, it is not possible to help these people. It's not possible to help anybody who doesn't understand that there's a problem, whether they're narcissistic or not. Sometimes we find that people break no contact out of fear. They might go into a panic when they realize the relationship might really be over this time. They might experience fear that the narcissist doesn't care about them anymore, or that the narcissist will find a new person to care about. This goes for any type of relationship, by the way, not just romantic ones. People might worry excessively about what the narcissist is doing or who the narcissist is talking to, and they might contact them to find out. It's important to be very, very honest about your feelings here, because this kind of thing is actually an attempt to control the narcissist, which is just as wrong as them trying to control you. We cannot control other people. Not only is it not healthy, it isn't even really possible. People are going to do what they want to do, and that's the end of it. We only stress ourselves out worrying about things we can't control, and other people are things we can't control. Sometimes people do things we don't like or that are hurtful. All we can do is get out of the situation, learn from it, and move on. No one can change or control another person, and no one has the right to try. You do have the right to say that if someone's going to act a certain way or do certain things, you will not be around them because you don't want it in your life. But it's up to them if they want to do anything about that or not. If they don't, then you should move on. There are many relationships where there is a fundamental problem, such as cheating. Even in non-narcissistic relationships, this kind of thing happens all the time. One spouse cheats continuously, and of course the other one doesn't like it. It's hurtful. It's disrespectful. But instead of ending the relationship with this cheating person, who obviously cannot be faithful for whatever reason or doesn't want to, the hurt spouse argues and fights and insists that the cheater change. The faithful spouse attempts to control the cheating spouse movements and daily life in an effort to prevent them from cheating. This might be understandable from an emotional standpoint, but it's not healthy at all. It's bad for any children involved, and it hurts everybody. Too many people have a problem with the way someone is, but instead of ending the association, they stay and constantly complain that the person is not who or what they want them to be, or they try to control the person and force them to change. This is different than having boundaries. Boundaries are when you say, I'm not going to put up with this, and if you do it, the relationship is over. That's not trying to control somebody. They can do whatever they want, and if they don't respect your boundaries, then they won't be around you anymore. You're not trying to prevent them from doing something. You are preventing it from being in your life. That's not the same thing. Many things can be worked out, of course, and many marriages have survived things like infidelity and become stronger. But if there is a pattern of behavior or interaction that you are unhappy with or that is hurtful and abusive, staying in the relationship and insisting the other person change is not healthy or productive. It almost never works. You can either accept the situation as it is, or you can't, because, and this might not be easy to hear, but people don't have to change. They don't have to change for their spouse or their kids or their mom or their dad or anybody else, and most of them won't. They will be as awful and sneaky and wrong and abusive as they want to be, but you don't have to put up with it. That's what no contact is about, not putting up with it. It's your way of standing up and saying, I'm not putting up with this anymore. No contact is not finite. In other words, it has no end. It's the stopping of your association with this person because they have demonstrated that they're not someone whose behavior you can tolerate. It can be hard to keep no contact because you cared for this person and because of the addictive, dependent nature of abusive relationships. If you feel the urge to contact the narcissist, it might help if you write down your feelings. Maybe you can write a letter to them, but don't give it to them. Maybe you could make a list reminding yourself of all the ways that they've hurt you. This both helps you process and get those traumas out of you, and it gives you a good reminder of why you're staying away from them. Some people say that they listen to videos like this one to remind themselves why they shouldn't contact this person. There are things you can do to exercise the feeling without giving in. You can also distract yourself in various ways. You could go for a run, you could walk your dog, play video games, see what's on TV if you have a TV, or hang out with somebody. The important thing is to acknowledge your feelings for what they are and let them work themselves out without involving the narcissist. Because you cannot work on your own feelings with someone around who is unable to understand that you even have feelings. The only thing that will happen is what always happens. Your feelings will be ignored and you're going to be abused. No contact is about breaking that pattern, so hang in there. It does get easier. You might notice that I didn't mention how the narcissist reacts when you break the no contact rule. That's because, quite frankly, I don't think it matters. Focusing on the narcissist is not what's important here. They will react how they always react to being given attention. There's no new information there. What's important is how you feel and how you react to it. They may step up their efforts to get your attention once you reinstate the no contact rule, but that's not really news either. If you've been dealing with a narcissist, you already know they're going to do that. It's more important to figure out your feelings. Let the narcissist worry about their own feelings for once. Instead of trying to find evidence that this person actually does care about you, try to focus on why you accepted this abusive behavior in your life in the first place. That is what's going to help you heal. I hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. I take appointments online and over the phone Monday through Friday. So if you're interested in speaking with me, you can visit littleshaman.org and click the Book an Appointment tab to go ahead and do that. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you and have a wonderful day.